Look at his pupils. What we see are the jagged micro-oscillations of a high-speed processor attempting to downregulate a relentless stream of raw, unrefined synesthetic data. The mask is slipping. Witness the retinal glitch. It's a momentary lapse in his executive functioning where the biological hardware fails to contain the sheer volume of his internal architecture. The system is overloaded. He is a biological marvel. While the public witnesses a celebrity tantrum, we are observing a mind that has traded its humanity for a permanent, high-voltage geometric obsession. He has stopped being human. This is a surgical autopsy. We are dissecting the entity formerly known as Kanye West to understand how he built a mental fortress out of discarded, weaponized trauma. The man is gone. His success is a fortress. To understand his architecture, we must analyze how he transformed his deepest psychological wounds into a series of calculated, cold, defensive fortifications. It isn't about the music. The maternal anchor snapped. In 2007, his primary feedback loop suffered a catastrophic biofeedback failure that left his entire neurological system in a state of permanent, jagged oscillation. The light went out. Donda was his prefrontal cortex. Her removal created a massive psychological void where the subject began to synthesize a new, algorithmic reality based on infinite geometric probabilities of collapse. He lost his gravity. He weaponized the vacuum. Instead of traditional grieving, he chose a state of total architectural isolation where the only remaining constant was his own relentless refusal to disappear. The subject became an island. The wired jaw was first. This early physical impact functioned as the first major biological reboot, proving the organism could synthesize high-value output from the rubble of trauma. The machine was born. Then came the deity complex. The 2007 deletion event initiated a survival mechanism that forced the subject to construct a self-sustaining, cold shell of total, divine, absolute certainty. He became his own god. He manipulates high-frequency sound. His auditory synthesis is designed to bypass the listener's logic centers, using jagged frequencies to trigger a primal, algorithmic response in the human brain. It is psychological warfare. His fashion is brutalist. The Yeezy aesthetic is a calculated reduction of the human form into sharp, geometric silhouettes that mirror the harshness of his internal environment. It's a uniform for survival. He craves negative space. Because his internal mind is a cluttered storm of high-voltage ideation, he requires an external world that is cold, empty, and surgically precise. The silence is mandatory. Colors define his neurology. We see him use primary colors for ego inflation and beige for total sensory deprivation, to stabilize his fluctuating biofeedback loops in real time. He is painting his pulse. He is a decentralized organization. His brain functions as a series of conflicting directives running simultaneously, which often results in a total breakdown of his algorithmic social survival protocols. The system is crashing. He sees a topographical map. Look at how he navigates the world not through eyes, but through a constant, cold scanning for potential disruptions to his personal frequency. He is a high-speed disruptor. Then came the psychological death. The 2016 Saint Pablo incident was the precise moment the subject was forcibly extracted from the public grid for a total biofeedback overhaul. The previous he died. It was a factory reset. His hospitalization at UCLA wasn't a medical event, but a total, cold incineration of his ego to make room for a new operating system. The data was wiped. The isolation chamber changed him. Inside that dark room, he confronted the harsh biological reality of his own neurodivergence and synthesized a version of divinity to act as armor. He built a new shield. He abandoned approval metrics. The post-2016 entity emerged with a flattened effect and a surgical detachment from the standard, low-bandwidth frequencies of his peers and the public. He stopped listening back. He chose to be unforgettable. He realized that being liked was a primitive constraint, so he pivoted his entire architecture toward becoming a high-bandwidth, polarizing force of nature. He became a permanent frequency. The human subject is gone. What remains is a weaponized avatar, an ideological entity that uses its own geometric trauma to puncture the collective consciousness of the 21st century. The transformation is complete. These are neural dumps. His current communication patterns aren't rants, but rather unrefined streams of raw data meant to test the algorithmic limits of his surrounding environment. He is stress-testing reality. Polarization is a filter. He utilizes public outrage as a biological mechanism to filter out anyone who cannot process his high-frequency, cold disruptions of the standard social grid. Only the static remains. He fears the social virus. His fixation on free thought is a desperate defensive maneuver against the algorithmic conditioning he perceives as a threat to his internal cognitive sovereignty. He is hiding in plain sight. He is open-source software. He views his own mind as a piece of code that the world is constantly trying to patch, restrict, and ultimately cold boot into submission. He refuses the update. He is outrunning his reputation. His constant movement between Tokyo, Florence, and Wyoming indicates a biological need to escape the glitch-heavy static of his own historical data. He never stops moving. He creates the storm. The subject thrives in extreme pressure differentials, purposefully generating cultural chaos so he can remain the only one in the cold eye of it. Chaos is his oxygen. He wants a sealed environment. His recent obsession with brutalist domes is a physical manifestation of a mind that requires a perfectly geometric, controlled space to prevent cognitive leakage. He is building a cell. The glitch is the standard. He is designing a world where his own neurological malfunctions are the primary law, and the rest of society is considered the glitch. The reality has flipped. He loves the conflict. We are watching a dopaminergic loop where his brain receives a chemical reward for every high-stakes interaction and cold, public confrontation he initiates. He feeds on the noise. Outrage is his electricity. The collective anger of the world provides the high-voltage current necessary to power his obsessive output and sustain his crumbling fortress of ego. We are his battery. He rejects shared time. His refusal to adhere to schedules is a deliberate rejection of your reality, asserting that his internal algorithmic clock is the only one that matters. He lives in the now. The processor overwrites data. He can contradict himself in seconds because his mind has already deleted the previous packet of information to make room for a new glitch. The past doesn't exist. It's a loss of dampening. What we call bipolarity, he perceives as a superpower, but biologically it is a catastrophic failure of the brain's emotional biofeedback systems. There are no breaks. He markets the fallout. He has successfully turned his internal instability into a high-value commodity, selling the debris of his own neurological architecture to a captivated audience. The crash is for sale. The price is total isolation. Operating at this frequency requires the complete sacrifice of every marriage and alliance, which he eventually processes as a cold limiting factor to discard. He is truly alone. He is a solitary algorithm. He is calculating the fastest path toward a legacy that will survive long after his biological hardware has finally reached its point of total failure. He wants to be eternal. He wants to be law. The subject no longer wishes to be a man, but rather an immutable, geometric law of nature that cannot be questioned or deleted. He is seeking immortality. He is the origin point. His obsession with the number one is a mathematical attempt to ensure he can never be replaced, forgotten, or overwritten by a newer architecture. He must be first. The hardware is failing. This entire God complex is a desperate attempt to achieve digital immortality before his own biological system succumbs to the weight of its own output. The clock is ticking. He is in high-speed entropy. The barriers between his art and his delusions have completely dissolved, leaving us with a walking laboratory experiment in cold, uninhibited human ego. The lines are gone. He is our crash test. We observe him because he is the only one showing us the absolute limit of the human processor, hitting every cultural wall at geometric velocity. Look at the impact. The glitch is the system. Look at his jaw and that frozen clench. The glitch is no longer a bug in his code, but the entire underlying operating system. He has fully automated. He automated his trauma. He has built an empire that runs on the fumes of his own pain, requiring no conscious input to maintain its cold cultural momentum. The machine runs itself. He is a surgical architect. He lives in a palace constructed from the very stones the world threw at him, trapped in a state of perfect, geometric isolation. The walls are high. It is a study of survival. This isn't about creativity anymore. It's a cold analysis of what happens when a mind reaches the edge of total psychological biofeedback dissolution. He is at the edge. He is a blur. He is running away from the void of being nothing at such a high speed that he has become a distorted glitch in our vision. We can't see him. These are diagnostic reports. Every album and interview functions as a stress test for a mind that requires constant friction to feel even remotely biologically operational. He needs the heat. It is a thermal runaway. We are witnessing the meltdown of an elite-level consciousness that has become beautiful, terrifying, and ultimately biologically unsustainable for the human vessel. The core is melting. He resides in the silence. The real Yi isn't found in his words, but in the cold silence between his public cycles where the processor finally rests. That is the truth. He built a monument. In the void left by his mother, he constructed a geometric monolith that is impressive to look at but lacks any warmth or humanity. Monuments do not breathe. He traded his humanity. He has successfully negotiated a seat at the table of mythological archetypes, but it was a high-priced transaction with a cold refusal of refunds. The deal is done. What will be left? The question is no longer about his next move, but what remains of the man when the algorithmic avatar has finished its work. The soul is secondary. System integrity is compromised. Final analysis shows that the architecture of Yi remains a structural marvel of weaponized ego, even as the output levels reach a critical state. The experiment